Thank you for tuning in to the Voice of the Victim podcast. We discuss a lot of sad and potentially triggering things on this show. We try to be as sensitive and cautious as possible, but if you are sensitive to things involving abuse and may be triggered, please think twice before listening to our show.
Welcome to the Voice of the Victim podcast. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Rosie.
How are you doing tonight, Rosie?
I'm doing well. There's a storm rolling in. Maybe our listeners can hear the thunder in the background.
Yeah, it's
pretty cool.
Rolling across the sky right now.
Mm-hmm.
Today we have a very special episode for you. It's a listener story from one of our listeners, Jade, and it is intense.
Mm-hmm.
So brace yourselves for that. We want to say thank you right at the top to Jade.
Yes, for sure.
For sharing her story with us. And it wasn't easy for her to do it or even to show up, you know. It's an intense story.
And she did such a great job. She kept apologizing for her emotions. And I just want to be like, no, like, it's okay that you are being raw and emotional. Like, that's real.
Yeah, that shows the gravity of these situations.
And we appreciate that raw emotion.
Yeah. So here's our conversation with her.
I'll start off with my mom and my dad's relationship before all this even happened, because it kind of like adds into it a little bit. So I think it would be easier just to like explain that a little bit. My mom and dad, when they got together, like they had a really good relationship and stuff. But then my dad, he started showing his true colors to my mom and was like beating on my mom and cheating on my mom and things like that. And I think this is where all my trauma really started, because I can remember one time my mom, she was trying to leave my dad and he wasn't allowing that, obviously. And my mom just had like a gut feeling that he was going to kill her. And so my mom had taken out the bullets in his gun the night before, just because she was afraid something was going to happen. And my dad actually did hold that gun up to my mom's head and pull the trigger, planning on taking her life, but didn't know that the bullets weren't in there. I was 3 years old at that time, and I was in my mom's arms at that time. And I do remember that, even at the age of 3. So I think that that's kind of where all my trauma really started. Even though they had a really, really rough relationship, my dad was a good dad to us at that time. And my mom did finally get away from him safely. And she did want my dad to still be a part of our lives if that's what we all chose. And at that time, I did want to be a part of my dad's life. And me, my mom, and my brother, we moved to Florida. And every summer, my dad would come up to Florida and pick me and my brother up and take us back to Ohio. So it was probably like 3 months almost that he would have us, like during the summertime. And at the age of 5, my dad started sexually abusing me. And I remember it all. I remember everything down to when it first happened, when the last time it happened. He didn't start by just like actually raping me. It was just started like him just touching me and me touching him and stuff. And it would get to the point where that's what I wanted every night. And it was only because I didn't know any better. And I thought that that's what dads and little girls do, you know. I didn't know any better. I was 5 years old. And
yeah. How could you?
Yeah. And so like when he wouldn't come in to the bedroom and get me at night, I would feel like he didn't love me and he didn't want me anymore and all that stuff. And it just started with me. And then eventually, not that long after it started with me, he started bringing my stepsister into it. I forgot to tell you that my stepmom is in on all of this also. My stepmom raped me with my father, but she didn't touch her own kids. So she would know that it was happening and she would watch it happening with her daughter, my stepsister, and me. But she wouldn't like join in on it with her kid. But she did with me. And then it was like to the point where even when me and my sister were alone, we would touch each other and stuff because we thought that that's what we were supposed to do. And then it just escalated and he started actually raping me. When he actually started raping me was when I was about 7. And I didn't ever say anything, obviously, because like I was told I was never supposed to. And this is stuff that daddies and little girls do. That's nobody's business and like things like that. He never threatened me, but he would make me think that this was a secret that we keep between us, but it's normal secret. And so I never even thought about telling anybody. And like I didn't feel like it was wrong. And I didn't know any better. And I became like very like sexual as a little kid too, like wanting the wrong attention from grown men or wanting the wrong attention from anyone that would give it to me. And it was like every year from when I was 5 years old until I was 12 years old, my dad raped me. And it was for 3 months straight each year. And as I got older, I was, I think, 8 years old when I did tell my mom that my dad was raping me. And I got scared and I didn't know what to do. My mom went crazy, of course, and like went to the police in Ohio and everything. And my dad had got arrested for it. And he had called me from jail without my mom knowing this. And he had told me on the phone, like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in here. Like, don't you love me? And
Oh my God.
how can you do this? And things like that.
Not taking any responsibility.
None. And he still to this day will never. But he just obviously put it on me. I was an 8-year-old little girl. I didn't know any better. I was so upset that I upset him. Mm-hmm. So I told my mom it was a lie. I told her that it was a dream. It was a lie. It never happened. And so my mom, of course, like, she said that she didn't believe me fully, but she didn't know that my dad had called me from jail either. So she's thinking that I'm just thinking this in my head, like, you know, this was just a dream, Mom, like, that nobody's feeding me that information to say that thing. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, all right, you know, you can't make accusations like that. Like, if it's not true, then you got to tell them that it's not true so he can get out of jail and stuff. But if it is true, you can tell me. Like, my mom was very supportive, but I had it stuck in my head, like, no, it's not true. I don't want him to be in there. I lied. Like, I think I just got it mixed up with a dream and things like that. So he got away.
I can't believe he was able to call you as the victim of his crime. They let him call you.
I don't know. Like I said, I was 8. So, like, I'm not sure, like, anything about how they did things and stuff. And I don't even know how he figured out my phone number, because now when I talk about it to my mom, she swears that he did not know any of our phone numbers or anything, but he had to have got it somehow. And he was taking a big chance. And my mom just happened not to be there at the time when he called. And so he got me to feel bad and get him out of the situation. So my mom still kept letting us go up there because I told her, like, nothing's wrong. Like, I'm happy. And, like, because I was happy. Well, I thought I was happy. I didn't know any different. And so it just continued. The abuse continued with me and my stepsister. And then I was about 12 years old. And I was starting to realize that this is wrong. And I was starting to be in love with my father. And I knew that this wasn't right, but I didn't want him in trouble. I didn't want to say nothing. I just wanted him to love me like he was supposed to. And so I just protected him, of course, and I never said a word. But I stopped going over there. I just didn't want to go over there anymore. I was so uncomfortable. The older I got, the more I realized, like, this isn't okay. I did worry about my other sisters. And I wanted a relationship with my father, but it would never been the relationship that I needed and that I really wanted. But for some reason, I couldn't get away from him. Like, I just wanted him to love me. And obviously it's because he's beat me down my whole life.
And he's manipulated you into thinking that that's how he shows love between father and a daughter.
And it's so natural for a daughter to want that love from her father, that unconditional fatherly love.
Yeah, and that's all I ever wanted. And I kept trying to get this to happen, and it never was. And I wouldn't go see my side of the family, like his side of the family, like my grandma and everything, and my sisters. But the older I got, the more one of my sisters just hated me. And, like, I couldn't figure out why. We don't even really have a relationship because of everything that's going on. So I stay away. And, like, I don't know why you hate me so much. And come to find out, it was because my dad was doing it to her. And she really was in love with my dad. And, like, she got pregnant at 14. And the baby obviously came out with a lot of complications. And it wasn't my dad's. I'm going to say that now. But my dad wanted to just let everybody know how big of a whore my sister was. And catching her doing things in the backyard with grown men, and wants to make her feel like it's wrong. But he did this to her in the first place. And, like, she kept the baby and stuff. And she's a really good mom. But my sister and my stepmom would fist fight over my dad.
Wow.
It was a competition, and her story is not my story to tell, but there's some things that I can say because it's important to know how easy it is for your abuser to manipulate you. I want people to know that there is red flags everywhere if you just look for them. And my stepmom, I believe, was a victim herself. I think that my dad manipulated her into being the person that she is. I think that my dad obviously abused her and did all kinds of things to her, and she's scared of him, and she had Stockholm syndrome, I believe. And I think she just did what he wanted her to do. Do I think it makes it okay? No, I don't. And she's in prison too, so, but I feel for her somewhere deep in my heart, because even though she did it to me and nobody else, I feel like it's only because of him. And she wouldn't be that person if it wasn't because of him. Anyway, so I stopped going around my dad, and, like, but I would go around my family and try to see them and stuff. And senior year, the detectives came to my school, and they told me that my stepsister is accusing my father of raping me and her and all this stuff. And right then and there, I had the chance, and I didn't do it. And I said no, that she was a liar. And I let her down. And I could have stopped it right then and there, but I didn't. And I beat myself up for it all the time. Because why was I protecting him when there was nothing even here? And it was like I was still always protecting him and like never protecting my sisters, the people who I should have been protecting. And so, of course, nothing happened to him once again. And my sister really went downhill. And she got into drugs really bad. And like, she's still in and out of prison. And I know it has a lot to do with her being accused of lying. And I think that because as soon as that happened, she was still a teenager and she's younger than I am. And I was like 18 and a senior. And so she was younger. She was hurting. And I didn't help her. And like, I feel like she felt like she had nobody on her side. And the only person that could have helped her was me. So she went downhill and he got away with it once again.
Well, I hope that you don't let it eat at you every day. It sounds like you had so much going on in your own head with your own emotions with your father, that even though that's a terrible, terrible situation, you can't take the brunt of what happened.
Well, yeah, he caused all of it.
Yeah. But then when he started doing it to my other sister, it's like I could have stopped all of this. And I feel like it's really hard not to blame myself. And I don't blame myself, obviously, for what he has done, but I do blame myself for not stopping it when I could have. And it's hard for me to get past that because of everything that me and my sisters have been through. And it's like I can't help but think about that stuff. And so, but I am doing a lot better with it. And I'm learning to not be so hard on myself. And I don't consider myself a victim. I consider myself a survivor. And I don't want sympathy, you know what I mean? And I don't want attention. And I don't want any of that. Because if that was the case, this would have happened a long time ago. Like me telling on him or, you know what I mean? And that's what people tell me is I do this for attention. And I don't understand. I was silent for 25 years of my life. And now that I'm ready to spread awareness and talk about it, it's like I'm still trying to be silenced. And it's not okay. I want people to know that you do not need to be silent, because if you can stop it, do what you can to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't be afraid to stop it. And I lost more than just, you know, my dad. I did lose my dad, obviously, you know, and whether he's a monster or not in other people's eyes, that's still my father. I know I can't understand why he's done the things that he's done to us. But do I forgive him? Absolutely. Because I have to forgive it to be able to move on with my life. I don't hate him. I don't want harm on him. There is a lot of anger more in me because he will never admit what he's done. He will never take blame, and he will continue to blame us for being liars. But I can't change the person that he is. But just because he's that person doesn't make me a different person, you know? Like, I can't help how I feel in this whole situation. And that's one thing that's really hard, is how people are like, how can you not hate him? Well, for one, if you've never been in the situation, you wouldn't understand. And I stand by that statement because there's a lot of things in this world that I don't understand because I've never been in that situation. So you don't know how you can say how you think you would handle that, but you don't know until you're in that situation. And it's like, people are so quick to be like, well, you've had all these chances to lock him up. You lied all this time, so how are you not lying now? And it's like, you've never been a victim of rape or abuse. You wouldn't understand. And that's all I say, and I don't have to explain myself because even when I do, you're still not going to understand it, and it's a lot different when it's someone who created you. I can't just hate my father because of the things he's done to me. That's not in my heart. I'm not that type of person. Rather, he has destroyed me mentally, and I'm still a good person, and I can't let him take that from me. I can't let him think that I have anger or hate towards him, because monsters like that feed off of that stuff. You've ruined my life, and you're continuing to try to ruin my life, thinking that you have this hold on me and thinking that I just hate you. Well, I don't. I never will. And I don't think that I'll ever fully be able to move on with my life. Also because I never will have closure. I didn't get closure putting him in prison. That wasn't closure for me because he's still denying it. So I cannot close this chapter or this whole nightmare in this book if I don't know what I'm closing. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. Obviously, I know what's happened to me, but he can't admit it, and it drives me crazy. And it's like, I can't stop thinking about why you won't admit what you have done. Why? You're in prison for 435 years. Why can't you admit what you have done? You're not going anywhere. Why are you still continuing to make this our fault? Why are you still doing this to us? You've done enough damage, and you can't just do one thing right. Why? It's just so hard.
I can't imagine how frustrating that is. Like you said, he's taking that closure away from you and trying to maintain his power over you.
I can't go from something that somebody's not going to take blame for. Because even though I know it's happened to me, it's like, what am I don't know. It's just so hard to explain. And it's like, all I want is for him to tell the truth. I don't care about anything else. I don't want him to go into details and all this stuff. Just say you did it, and we're not his only victims. His daughters are not his only victims. And he's ruined so many people's lives. Why can't you just do one thing right? One. Well, let me just start with, my dad clearly ruined my body. And I was always told that I would never be able to have children. So obviously, not only did he take everything else from me, he took the opportunity away from me of being a mother. The only thing I've ever wanted in life. And I got cervical cancer when I was 18 years old. I got PCOS on top of everything else. And I was really starting to fall apart. I was really starting to be an angry person. I had so much anger and so much sadness inside of me that nobody even knew why. It was like I was a bomb waiting to explode. I was so mean and I was so hateful. I suck at relationships. Not so much anymore, but then I just sucked. I couldn't keep a relationship. I'm terrified of men. I am a lesbian, And obviously you're born gay, but I think that my father's doings is what pushed me more towards girls, because I don't like men. And it's not like I don't like men in a friendly way. It's I don't like men in a sexual way. I don't like a man to touch me, kiss me, nothing. And I kept forcing myself to be with men because I wanted a baby so bad. That's all I wanted. But the more men that I was with, the more it was hurting me inside, because this isn't what I want. This is making my trauma and my PTSD and everything else way worse. And like I said, nobody knew why I was the way I was, why I was so angry, why I just was that person. And it's so frustrating to be that person and just seem like you're a crazy person for no reason to them. But you know why you're like this. And it's like, one day I snapped and I busted a glass with my whole hand. I had to get stitches all in my hands and my arms, and they had psych down there, and I was begging to go to the psych ward. I need help. I want someone to help me. And they told me there was nothing wrong with me and nobody could help me, really. So that made me more angrier and made me feel like I was more crazy, even though these people are telling me there's nothing wrong with me, and I know there's something wrong with me. And I just kept snapping. And I remember it was November. I think it was 2017. I get a phone call from a detective, and I just knew what it was. And I knew it was time, but I didn't know who it was. And it was about my little sister. And I knew that I couldn't do it to her. I needed to do this, and I needed to do it now. So I went to the police station and told them everything. The first time I've ever talked about it. The first time I've ever cried about it, screamed about it to someone else. I was hurting so bad. And I knew my sister was hurting too. She just turned 18. She has this baby that she had when she was 14 years old. She left my dad's house, and her boyfriend that she had that baby with, she was still with him. And I guess one day she was talking about it to him. And they were trying to get custody of my sister's baby.
Your dad was trying?
Yeah. He was trying to take my niece away from my sister. And obviously it was the excuse because she's unfit, she's so young, she is a terrible mom, but she wasn't. It was because they wanted her to be their next victim. And my sister was talking to her boyfriend about it one day, and he said, "You have got to tell somebody this." He said, "This is not normal." And that is the first day that she realized that this was not normal, even as a grown woman, even though she wasn't really grown, but she was 18 years old. You would think that an 18-year-old would know that that's not normal, but not when that happens to you your whole life. It doesn't matter, you know what I mean, how old you are. Stockholm Syndrome is a very serious thing. And my sister absolutely had it. And so she went to the police, and I knew I had to have her back. I knew I had to. And I was ready. And I remember them telling us, and I knew my baby sister was in that house still. And I told them to please get her out of there fast. And they said that it's going to take a little while, that they have to build a case on him, and they have to watch him and all this stuff. But they didn't do that. They busted his door down that night. The FBI went in full force, throwing smoke bombs and stun bombs in the house, and because they didn't want My sister knew that my dad had a USB drive and it had all kinds of pictures on it. And so they did all that because they did not want him to have a chance to hide anything. And obviously, it's really hard to have evidence of rape sometimes. I mean, if it happens and you get tested right away, you can tell, but you don't have evidence of rape, like what I mean, other than that. And so they knew my dad. The cops already knew that my dad was a shitty person. They know his record. They know his record is literally like 18 pages long and he's just not a good person. And they know that. So they took this very seriously and they didn't wait like they were supposed to. And they busted his door down and took him. They didn't take my stepmom, even though I had told them everything about her too. So I'm not sure why they didn't take her, but they took him. And that's when everything really started with that side of the family on Facebook. My grandma calling me a whore and telling me that she hates me and that we're liars. She hopes we die. And he didn't do this to us. And we're miserable. And we're just trying to ruin everyone else's lives. And she still sticks to this day. And it hurts so bad. My grandma was my favorite person.
Jade, I'm so sorry.
Can't imagine.
So he was in jail for 2 years before we actually had trial. I also want to mention that in 2019, a month after I agreed to actually testify and sign papers and everything, and I got pregnant with my son. And he says that's a miracle. And I think that was God's gift to me for doing what I needed to do. I never was a big believer in God. And obviously it's because of what I've been through in my life. And all I could think in my head is, why, if God is real, why would he let this happen to me? I was innocent. I was little. Mm-hmm. I didn't deserve this. And so it was really hard for me to believe in God, and I couldn't. And a month after I agreed to testify, I got pregnant with my son.
Wow.
And I was trying since I was 18 years old. And I was told my whole life I need to stop trying. And I decided to try one more time. And I got it. He's MS2, and he's my whole world. And I almost lost him a lot. I had a really rough pregnancy. And I was going through a trial while I was pregnant. And I lost 22 pounds pregnant with him.
Oh, that's scary.
I couldn't eat. I could not. No matter what I did. I was so sick. And trial was 2 weeks long. And I was at the courthouse from sunup to sundown. I was only like 3 or 4 months pregnant at the time. And they told me when I first found out I was pregnant that I was miscarrying. And I really just wanted, honestly, to end my life at that point in time. And it made me even more angrier with God because you give me this baby and then you're taking it from me. And I just couldn't understand why. And they told me that just wait until he passes through me, the baby, that he wasn't going to make it. He did. He made it. And he's healthy and he's happy. And he almost died when he was born. It's just I went through a lot to get him, and he is my whole world. And I thank God every day, and I believe in him, and I worship him. And it's all because I know it was him that gave me my baby. I know that he did this because I did what I was supposed to do. And I can't come up with anything else. I can't. There's nothing else I can come up with. He's a miracle, and I'm blessed, and that's for sure. But it sucks because my grandma, nobody ever will get to see my son grow up because they think that I'm such this horrible person. My little sister hates me, who didn't have anything to do with this, but I know she did. I know she did. But it's okay. I was once that person. She can be angry, but I'm just protecting her. And she thinks we're liars. She thinks that we're attention seekers. And my little sister was my best friend.
So do you have 2 sisters then?
I have 2 sisters and one stepsister. And it's me, my stepsister, and my middle sister that this is involved with. And then my baby sister, she swears it didn't happen to her, but I just...
I'm so sorry.
It just sucks, and my mom beats herself up every day. It's not her fault. She couldn't know just because she didn't go with her gut and continue to not. She can't do that to herself. And it's really hard because I do have my stepdad in my life, and I love him so much, and I'm so thankful for him. And he sat in the trial and listened to every single thing that my father did to me and my sisters. And I am so blessed to have him. But it's still just not the same. And I don't want to sound like I'm not thankful for him because I love him more than anything in this world. That's my dad. My son has his last name. But it's why couldn't my dad just be a good person? I never was able to be a child. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Not only did my dad get arrested and stuff, but he acted a complete fool in court. When you obviously go to court like that, you do not have handcuffs on. You're not in jail uniform. You don't have shackles on. You don't have nothing. You look nice and presentable, and like you just didn't spend 2 years in jail. And I guess the first day of testifying, my sister was going to go. And my dad told them that if you make me go in there, I'm going to run. I'm not going in there. So they had to put a shock collar on him and put it on his waist so nobody could see it. And I remember me going into the courtroom to testify, and I was a mess before I even walked in the room. And I remember he looked at me, so much anger and so much hate in his eyes. But why? Why? Why do you hate me so much? And I testified, and his lawyer made me feel like I was an ant. And I get it, it's their jobs. But there's just some things you should say to people who are victims of anything, whether you're their lawyer or not. It doesn't matter. She was mean, and she made me feel like I was nothing. And my dad, he obviously got found guilty after 2 weeks. And I knew the day that I saw all of the jury members crying while I was testifying that this was going to be it, that they're going to believe us. And I think that there was a lot of men on the jury. And you could just tell that they cared and that they believed me, and it felt so good that someone believes me for once. And I couldn't look at him. I couldn't breathe. I could not breathe. I felt like I was suffocating the whole time I was sitting in that chair. It was the worst experience of my entire life, and I would never do it again. And I always said that if he got an appeal, I would never testify again, and I mean it. I can't. It was the worst thing. honestly, that I have done. And my stepmom obviously did wind up getting arrested. And the day that we read our statements in court, when he was getting sentenced, my sister was reading hers and she couldn't breathe. So she stopped for a second and my dad said, "Take a breath for all of your lies, bitch." And it made me so sick. You just did that on national television. Like, you haven't done enough. You haven't. That judge was the best judge that I've ever seen in my life. He wasn't having none of my dad's shit. And he went off on my dad when he said that. And I can show you, I can give you guys the link. I think it's on YouTube or the news, anything. Because they literally have him on the news acting a complete fool. And the judge looked at my dad and said, "I'll make sure that the only way you ever get out of here is in a body bag." And even though I felt relief, I felt so hurt. And I just never will be able to explain why. He got 5 counts of sexual battery, 2 counts of unlawful sexual conduct with a minor, and he has 22 counts of rape and 2 counts of gross sexual imposition. 15 term plus 40 to life. Expected release date is 09/15/2278.
Wow.
Wow.
Got 4 life sentences plus 200 and something years. So my stepmom, she got 80 years. She only got charged with rape, obviously, with me. So she was charged with like child neglect, child abuse, stuff like that, because she knew and was allowing him to do it to her other kids too. So, but she is happy in prison. And I think that that was her way of getting away from him. She admits to what she has done. She takes classes to understand victims' minds and how they work. She's taking parenting classes in there, and, you know, she's taken responsibility for what she has done. And I think that she's happy because she's away from him. And it sucks, but that's where she's happy to be there. And because she knows she's done wrong, but she also, like I said, I think she's a victim herself. But instead of actually trying to help, she made situations worse and joined in on situations. So it made her just as guilty. And, you know, part of me really does feel bad for her. And then part of me just doesn't. And that's just where you got to spend the rest of your life for what you've done. And my dad, like I said, he never will take blame. And he just had to move prisons because he was getting beat up every day, and he had to pay people $65 a day for protection. And obviously they can't just allow inmates to beat on someone. So he had to move prisons, and I think that they put him in a prison with sex offenders. So I don't want nothing to happen to him. I think that where he is where he deserves to be. And I think that he's got to talk to God, not to anybody else, and that's okay. And I want him to find peace in himself. And obviously, I think that he had a rough childhood for the reason why he is the way he is. And that doesn't make it an excuse. But, you know, I decided to go the different way and be a good person. And I try to be a good person. I have another little boy that I took through a CPS that I've had for years. And he's actually my little cousin, but I've had him since he was 2, and he's all I know. I'm all he knows. And it's been hard, really hard, because he had a rough life. And he was born addicted to all kinds of drugs, and, you know, he will never be able to be considered a normal child because of everything that he's been through. So it's like, and I also work with adults with mental disabilities. So it's like I'm constantly around like trauma and like, you know what I mean? And that's what I choose to do. But it is overwhelming a lot of the time. And I can't get mental health help. I can't go to the doctors and get medication because I can't afford it. I don't get health insurance. And I would love to be able to feel like a normal person, but I have accepted that this is my life. And no matter if it's over or not, like all this, hey, he's locked up, it doesn't change my pain. It doesn't change what I've been through and my PTSD and my trauma. It doesn't change any of that. But I'm better. I get better every day. And I was silent for years, many years, and I'm ready to help people. And I'm ready to let people know that it's okay to tell. It's okay. I lost a lot when I did so, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It's okay. You're not alone. And I want people to know that they don't have to be silenced and talk about it. It helps you feel better. And it helps other people know that they're not alone. And I've realized that. That's why I decided to do this. It took me a lot of courage to do it, and because it is a part that you don't want to remember, but you're never not going to remember it. But while you're talking about it, it hurts. But when it's over with, you feel better. And I just want people to know that it is okay to not be okay also. You're not going to be happy, and you're going to have your days. And it's okay to be sad. You're not weak because you're sad. Trauma is trauma, and it affects everybody differently. And I just don't want people to be hard on themselves like I was. And life's worth it, you know? It's a beautiful life. Just because things happen to you don't mean that your life is completely ruined. And people go through all kinds of different things. But it's how you decide to live your life afterwards is what really matters. You can go down the good path, you can go down the bad path. Neither path changes what's happened to you, but go down the good path, you can make changes and help and be a good person, or you can go down the bad path and let your trauma take over your life. And that's not what I'm going to do. It's not what I will do. He's took enough from me, and I'll be damned if he takes anything else. It's just important to know that everyone's worth it. You're worth it. Don't let anybody say that you're never going to be loved and you're never going to be worth it, because everyone is. Everyone's life's worth it. And rather I have more sad days than happy days, I'm still here. I still have my kids. Like I said, I'm better every day. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm getting there. And it is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. But it's all about how you handle it. And that's just, I don't let this define me, and I never will. And I hope that he finds peace, and I hope that when he sleeps at night, he dreams about it, because I want him to tell the truth, and I want it to haunt him. I want it to hurt him, and I don't think it does, but
I really hope someday he takes responsibility and that he does give you the chance to get that closure. Like you said, you still have a strained relationship with your grandma. I really hope that he does that, and that she can, see things the way they really are. That's so sad.
And I understand, she doesn't want to believe that, but I don't believe it either, and it happened to me. So no matter if you want to believe it or not, it happened. And sometimes you just have to accept it and move on. But she never will, and that's okay. I still love her. And she's still my grandma, but I'll never be able to forgive her for the things she has said. But I don't hate her. I hope that she finds peace within herself also, because there's clearly some stuff going on in there. But it sucks because my great-grandparents are about to pass away and never be able to look at them again. But I guess this is what I chose when I decided to finally do what needed to be done.
Well, and it wasn't you. I mean, it was a choice you were forced to make.
It's their choice.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's their choice, and it's part of the fallout that your dad caused with everything he did. It's not your fault at all.
I know. It's hard to I just don't understand, and I will never understand. And it's just my grandma's not the person I thought she was. It sucks. It hurts. But I have to move on from it and just accept the way that things are. And I'm not going to be able to change anything, and I don't want to.
I really appreciate that perspective from you, that it's so important when you're trying to move on from these things that you are able to accept the way things are and still move on with your life, because you've obviously come such a far way from first not wanting to talk about it at all, and now you went through that trial in the middle of a really rough pregnancy, and now you're breaking the cycle of raising 2 kids and doing the best that you can. And I mean, I think this is a really unique perspective, and a lot of people will really appreciate and relate to you.
Yeah, I just also want to say, like, nobody's wrong for how they feel about any situation that they've been in. If you hate the person, that's how you feel. If you can't hate the person and you love that person, don't let anybody tell you that you're wrong because you feel like that. Do not let people control how you feel. You can't let people do that, because you're never going to heal. You are allowed to feel how you want to. You went through this. Nobody else did. It's not up to anybody else to decide how you should feel about things that happened to you. I know it's hard to not listen to things like that, because I'm that person that tries not to listen to that stuff. But I've learned that I'm allowed to feel how I feel. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to tell anybody why I still love my dad. I don't have to tell anybody why I don't hate my father and why I choose to forgive him. That's just how I feel. And whether people agree with it or not, it's not up to them to agree with how someone else feels about what they went through. And I want people to know that that's very important. Don't let other people make you feel like you're wrong because of the way you feel, no matter what way it is.
I think you said that beautifully. I really do.
Thank you. I have my statement that I wrote, that I read to my father in court. I cannot read it out loud, but I will be more than happy to send it to you guys if you would like to read it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't mentally handle it, so
it's all right.
Sorry that I cried the whole time. I'm just emotional.
No, don't be sorry.
I was like, I'm not gonna cry. And then I just started crying. And
That's all right.
The raw emotion is going to add so much depth to your story. Yeah. And I liked what you said earlier about your emphasis on you don't know how it is if it didn't happen to you. Because I think people are going to at first be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she said she still loves her dad. But the way that you just say it how it is and you stick to it, and you're not like wavering in your emotions about it, you're very, very definite about it. And I think that's going to make a huge impact on people and really help them understand, or try to understand.
Yeah, exactly. You're, like I said, you're allowed to feel how you feel. If you love that person and you have no sadness, no nothing towards that person, that's okay. Because when someone goes through trauma, any kind of trauma, it doesn't matter if it's little, big, trauma is trauma. And I need people to know that, like, I listened to your story, and I believe you said that you didn't think at the time that it was really that big of a deal, but it was. It is. It doesn't matter what happens to you. If it affects you, it affects you, and it's okay. And you're allowed to feel how you feel. If you are angry, you're allowed to be angry. You shouldn't live your life angry, but you're allowed to be angry, and you're allowed to express that, but you shouldn't let that control your whole life for the rest of your life. But you're allowed to feel how you feel. And that's just that. And that's all I tell people when people ask me, well, how can you feel like that? Don't ask me that, because you'll never understand. And I say it in the nicest way possible, and I'm not trying to be mean. But you tell me that you want to hurt my father, that's okay, but I don't wish that. You can feel how you feel about my situation, but I'm allowed to feel how I feel about my situation, and I want people to understand that is important, very important, through the healing process.
Yeah, it's something you can't control, the way you feel about something, and it's no one else's business.
You don't have to feel weak. You're not weak because you're hurt. You're not weak for breaking down. It's okay. I just want people to know that it is okay, and that you're not alone, and heal how you want to heal. Heal how you think that you should heal, not how people want you to heal.
Yeah.
It's not up to them.
Well said. Well, thank you so much for telling your story. I can't imagine how hard it was for you to just, set up this date. And
this is the first time I've actually talked on a big platform or anything like that. I'll tell people my story, and other people come to me after it all broke on the news, because my last name is not a normal last name, and everybody knows, and I wanted to help, and I wanted to let them know that they can tell. When people started coming to me and I started helping people, that's when I realized that I need to do this. I need to break the silence as much as I can. And I just want people to know that they're not alone, and there's somebody that cares. Someone does.
Thank you. Just sitting here listening to you talk, I've just been speechless. It's such a powerful story, and being able to see you tell it too it hits really hard, and I can't imagine having to live through that. I mean, from such a young age, you were manipulated and shaped, and the fact that you have been able to get past that and become such a productive person, and then also be strong enough to come on here and tell your story, it's inspiring, and it makes me really appreciate every person who has had the courage to come on here and tell their story.
Yes, it's very, very brave, and I want them all to know that they're strong and they're worth it and they're wonderful, and I know your pain, and I'm here. If someone really needs to get a hold of me, there's ways, and I'm here, and I'll just listen. That's all you want. And it's important to have someone to talk to. It is very important to trust someone. And it's not easy to talk about things like this, but it's worth it. It's worth it to me if I save someone else. And that's all I want. And I know I was all over the place with the story, but, things just kept popping up in my head, and I really wasn't prepared for this, like I said, because mentally I was freaking out, and so I couldn't prepare for it. So I was just I'm just going to go. And then, I was all over the place, but I said what I needed to say, and the important things. And I just want people to know that people care, and not everybody thinks that you're a liar, I promise. And just like you, Rosie, you went through it and overcame it, and whether you think it was big or not, it was, and it matters. And I'm proud of you for being able to overcome things like that. And it's a very good and rewarding thing when you finally let as much hurt as you possibly can go. Obviously, all the hurt's never going to go, but I'm better and I'm happier, and that's all I can ask for, is take it day by day. That's it.
Wow. Well, you sounded organized to me when you
Yeah,
told
you
the
did,
story.
actually.
I am writing a book. I love to write. I'm a very good writer, not to hype myself up or anything, but
Well, take credit for what you got.
it is my life story that I'm writing, and it's taken me a while, but I will get there. And when I do get there, I will give you guys a copy of my book if you would like to read it. But I'm just slowly. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. I'm like, I'm going to write a book. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to write this book.
Yeah. I don't think I could do it.
But I'm working on it slowly but surely.
Yeah, well, let us know for sure when you're ready, and we'll make sure everyone knows about it.
Are you going to be okay tonight? Like, I just want you to take like a deep breath because that was a lot.
Yeah. I had a breakdown last night too. It was just a really rough day.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. It makes me feel better afterwards when I do have a breakdown like that. So I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm actually at work, so I have to be okay. So
okay. Because I mean, from experience and with other people, it's like you get it out, and then it's just like kind of like the runner's high for a little bit, and then
I mean, I might cry just for like 5 more minutes, but
yeah, okay.
But I'll be okay. I love your guys' podcast. It is one of my favorites.
Thank you.
I found your podcast and I listened to every single episode that you had on there within like 1 week. And so
Wow.
I got my friends listening to it and stuff. And I figured that this would be a good time for me to try to get my story out there. And it took me a while to email you guys, but I did it. And I'm glad I did it. And you guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. You guys are great people, very caring and compassionate. And you need people like you guys. We need people like you guys to be hosting things like this for people like us that feel comfortable and safe in doing this. And you guys did a very good job of making me feel comfortable and like I mattered and that you guys care. So
good.
I just want you guys to know that you're doing a good job and don't think that you're not. So
Really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
I think I need a drink after that.
Off until 11 o'clock, so I got a while.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that was not easy. That was not easy for you. But I think our listeners are going to really, really appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah. Thank you again, Jade, for sharing your story with us. To wrap things up, we're going to read a couple things that Jade sent to us. She mentioned she just couldn't read these. It was too emotional. So this is her victim impact statement that she read to her father in court. And Rosie, do you want to start reading that?
It says, "To the man that gave me life and then turned around and took it right back from me. No, I'm not dead, but I barely feel alive. I feel weak. You took a lot from me. You took my virginity, my dignity, my self-respect. And most of all, you took the ability for me to ever love and trust another human being. This is hard, the hardest thing I have ever had to do in my entire life. How am I supposed to live my life like a normal person? I can't. You have broke me beyond repair. Certain things trigger me. I can't walk down the street like a normal person without fearing for my life. I'm scared of everything around me. I'm afraid someone is always coming to hurt me. I can't even have sex and be affectionate without having flashbacks of the horrible things you used to do to me. All it takes is someone to just touch me the wrong way, and I'll start having a mental breakdown. Yeah, they call that PTSD. I can't be around other people for long without having a serious anxiety attack. I was told my whole life that I would never be able to have my own children because of you, but God blessed me finally, and I'm carrying my miracle baby right now. God is good. You know, they say that a father's love is the best kind of love. I wish I could have had that love, the normal kind of love. The quote, I'll protect you with my whole life kind of love. But the quote, love you gave me was a love that I thought was normal. I thought all families did what we did. I thought all little girls and their fathers were supposed to have the relationship that me and you had. That's what happens when you brainwash a 5-year-old girl. I was innocent. I was still learning how to read and write. I couldn't even tie my shoes yet. I remember everything. The way you would look me in the eyes and tell me how much you love me right before you took my Mickey Mouse outfit off. I remember how I wasn't allowed to be a kid and play until I acted like an adult, like a little slut, and pleased you first. I remember how the nights you didn't walk into my room and wake me up while everyone else peacefully slept. I laid there and wondered, does he love me anymore? Why didn't he come get me tonight? Yeah, that's the little girl you made me become. Like I said, I thought we were supposed to love like this. Then it started with me and my stepsister together. Guess one wasn't enough to fulfill your needs, huh? Then you started making us do things to each other, to the point where we would do it to each other without you also. But that's how we thought sisters were supposed to love each other. As I got older, I started to realize that this is not normal. This is not how daddies are supposed to love their daughters. Do you remember when I was 8 years old and I lived in Florida? I told my mom everything you did to me. I remember that. Do you remember when you made me feel so small at the age of 8 and scared me to where I told everyone it was just a dream, that you didn't do that to me? Yeah, an 8-year-old innocent little girl saved you from rotting away in a cell the rest of your life. So my mom had no other choice but to believe me. I didn't ever want to go back to your house in the summer, but I did it to make you happy. This abuse continued for many years until I finally had enough. I was getting older. I started falling in love with my father, falling in love in a way I should have never, ever did. But that was his fault. Once again, I'm just an innocent kid. I stopped coming around you, but I never said a word to anyone. Over the years, after all of this, the many years of mental and physical abuse, you started calling me, started messaging me on Facebook, making it my fault as to why we don't have a relationship with each other. How dare you? It's like you didn't know or remember all the hurt you caused me. But I'm such a vulnerable person, such a broken person, that I started to believe this was my fault somehow. I wanted a relationship with you, but a normal one, and I was willing to forgive you, forgive the way you made me live as an innocent child. But nothing changed. I couldn't go around you without you making me feel uncomfortable. You would say inappropriate, sexual things to me. I just wanted a relationship with my sisters and brother. I just wanted to be close to them. I always wondered if you did that stuff to my sisters too. I cried about it. I asked them about it. They denied it. Kinda like me. I remember my senior year in high school. A detective came to my school and harassed me about what you did to me and my stepsister. I still denied it. I said she was crazy and that never happened. How sad, right? Once again, I saved you. When is it my time to be saved? You were never supposed to hurt me in the first place. I betrayed my sister that day, but I was just so scared to even say one word. I never ever wanted to go through what we were going through now, so I lied until it all disappeared. I stopped coming around. My sisters and brother wanted nothing to do with me anyways, because you took that from me too. Like you didn't take enough from me. I tried to move on with my life as I got older. I couldn't though. I couldn't keep a relationship. I never would love a man, period. Women is all I could put any kind of trust in. I was only dating women, and I still just couldn't love someone the right way because of how much you took from me. Then I started to love too hard. I let people use, abuse, and destroy me even more. I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to feel how it felt. I kept all this inside of me. It ate at me every day of my life. Nobody understood why I was the way I was, why I was so depressed, why I hated everything and everyone around me. I cried in secrecy. Nobody knew how much I was truly falling apart. When the detectives from Norwood called me last year in November, my heart sank into my chest. I knew exactly what it was about. They asked me to come into the station. The whole way there, my heart was racing and I couldn't stop crying, and walked in there and sat by my sister. I knew I had to have her back. I couldn't let her hurt like this. I cried and screamed because I never knew it was happening to her. It killed me. That's the day you got locked up. That's the day all of our lives changed. I'm still not okay. I'll never truly be okay. I have chose to forgive you. If I didn't, I would never be able to move on. Our first court date is scheduled in February, and the closer the days get, the more I hurt. I'm scared, I'm terrified, I need closure. I need this all to be over with. I lost my family. Your side of the family think we're nothing but liars, attention seekers, and everything else. But you, me, my sisters, and all the other victims, and God know the truth. You have to answer to him one day. I hope one day you can admit what you have done to your children. I hope one day you can find peace with yourself and realize the wrong that you have done. Are you okay? Do you sleep okay at night? Do you have sweet dreams? What do you think about every day? I still to this day wish no harm on you. The day I have to look you in the eyes in front of many people is the day I might just finally hit the bottom. You may have broke me, but you now have no control over me and my voice. I will no longer ever be a prisoner to you. I don't want an apology. You are never going to take the blame anyways. From your daughter.
Whew. That's heavy. I can't imagine how hard it was for her to stand in court and say all this.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, she was pregnant at the time.
Right.
And it wasn't going well.
It was not an easy pregnancy for her.
So it had to take a lot of courage. It sounds so frustrating just dealing with this father who won't take responsibility.
Right.
And it's really interesting how she put at the end, like, what do you think about? Like, how can you live your life not taking responsibility for this, not apologizing to your daughter for what you did to her, and be okay with yourself? Like,
like everybody knows that you are guilty, so why what is the point of not saying it?
Right. It reminds me of I was just watching the interrogation with the man who killed Tori Stafford. It was an 8-year-old girl. He took her from her school, raped her, and killed her. And he was interrogated for 3 hours, and he just kept acting like he had nothing to do with it. And I was just like, how can you sit there and deny this? They have all this evidence. It's clear that you did it, and yet you still won't admit it. And it reminds me of this because it's just so frustrating for me as an outsider to watch it. I can't imagine how it is for Jade.
It's just their last little bit of control.
So frustrating. But we're going to close out this episode with the poem that Jade wrote to her father, and I'll read that. It says, "My whole life I kept a secret and never told a single soul. Thought that it was weakness if I let myself become exposed. I never said a word, always kept my pain silent. But deep inside my heart and soul, I could hear the sirens. I was crying out for help within my own confinement. Many years pass, and to this day I'm still reminded that I was betrayed by someone who I should confide in. I was just a child, and early on I was exposed to a world so vile. Took my smile, took my innocence, and left me stranded. In denial that this incident was just imagined, but it wasn't. I wish these words I speak were due to a lack of judgment. It's hard for me to function when my past is still alive today. I wish this was a dream, but it's not. I'm wide awake. These memories might be the death of me. I can't believe you took the rest of me. I feel so weak. Can't you see you stole my childhood and left me traumatized? So much hate and self-destruction, like a bomb's inside. And if love is real, why is love so hard to find? 'Cause the only love I once knew caught me blind. I was only 5 when you chose to take advantage. The temporary pleasure left me permanently damaged. But regardless, I won't let your lifeless acts of cruelty turn me heartless. I can promise you one day I'll rise. I might be sinking now, but karma's gonna turn the tides. Take a look into my eyes and don't forget this image. Now take a deeper look inside and see what you've inflicted. All the sorrow I've kept hidden, here's now forbidden. and I refuse to keep on suffering from your decisions. And although I cannot erase these acts that you've committed, I know my heart will surely mend through faith and be uplifted, and I'll smile again. Go ahead and mark my words. You see, a flower only blossoms if it grows through dirt. Although it hurts, I must confront you and no longer run. Although it hurts, I do forgive you for the things you've done. I know my worth, and I will search until I find the sun, and let this story symbolize the way my life begun. But my story is far from over. I closed that chapter in my life and finally gave it closure. I said my story is so far from over, I'm no longer looking back. I must keep moving forward.